Hi, I'm AmberMac, and welcome to my newsletter live. If you've been following me for a while on social media, you know that every Tuesday we send out a newsletter with 10 or so stories that are making headlines across social media and beyond. What we do now and again is we go live with some of your top picks as we dive into the data as far as the links that you are clicking on the most. Before I get started with some of these stories, I wanted to ask where you are watching from. I see a comment from Shane. Hope you're having a wonderful day and summer. Thank you so much, Shane. And one from Tony. Good afternoon, Amber. Hello to Tony as well. So we are going live across all three big platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So thank you so much for joining me today. So let's dive right into it. Usually we talk about 5 different links, but today we have 6 because there was a 6th story that I knew that you would probably all love. And let's get started with a topic that has been making the rounds on social media over the past few weeks. It's a topic that I think many parents are discussing with their schools as well as with their kids. And that question is, what is going to happen in September? I wanted to mention this article that was getting a lot of attention in the newsletter. And this is about a statement that the American Academy of Pediatrics made, where they said that they strongly advocate that all policy considerations for the coming school year should start with a goal of having students physically present in school. One of the things that you'll notice within this article as you dive down is that they are arguing that based on the US's experience this spring, remote learning is likely to result in severe learning loss and increased social isolation. One of the reasons that I wanted to share this story is that I thought it was interesting how they were discussing in terms of what kids are experiencing and some of the consequences of the past few months, because so often we are looking forward in terms of what is going to be best to keep our kids safe. And I thought it was very telling where they discussed some of the consequences of the past few months, especially on kids who are in socioeconomic situations. That means that they didn't necessarily have access to all of the latest technology. So I encourage you to check out their statement. You can also read the link that we shared from NPR that dives further into this discussion. I'd also be curious, if you're watching right now, what is your feedback on back to school? And I think at the end of the day, as parents, we all want our kids to be safe, and that includes their physical safety, but also the emotional side of the situation as well. So there are many things to consider when we look to back to school this September, and there are many, many different factors. I think at the end of the day, as the parent of someone who is going into grade 6, the thing that is most important to me is that we listen to the experts and we listen to some of the advice that we have out there from people who understand some of the situation that we're in right now and how to keep our kids safe. So whatever data we can find at our fingertips, I think it's important for us to consider it and look to it and base our decisions on that data. Matthew Underwood says parents are definitely on edge. I think that is absolutely true. There are many, many parents who are having a hard time juggling both school and work. Sophie says it's a difficult topic. There was an interesting article in the New York Times over the past few days where they said that working parents can choose either school or work in terms of virtual school. And at the end of the day, it's hard really to do both. So you really will have to give up a little on one of those different things in the house. And I think that's where a lot of parents have been struggling over the past few months, myself included. So lots of challenges with this topic, but I think if we look around the world and we see what many other countries are doing and even provinces across Canada, at the end of the day, we know that there are solutions. And sometimes I believe that means that we need to think creatively and outside of the box in terms of how to keep our kids safe, but still physically get them back to school. So please keep the comments coming. I know this is a conversation that's going to continue for the weeks to come. And it's also a conversation that has to constantly evolve based on the situation that we're in. So it would be detrimental to make a firm decision on anything right now, not knowing if there is going to be, in fact, a second wave. So something to consider. Now, speaking of more and more parents who are working at home, wanted to share this Fast Company article that was getting a lot of attention as well in terms of different ideas for team bonding. The gist of the article is saying that I think many of us are tired of Zoom happy happy hours and social calls. So what they present in this article are some other ideas as far as what you can do with your team. One of the things that I really like in terms of these 7 ideas for remote bonding is they say that you can do things such as prepare a meal together. If you run a business and you want to send some of your staff a meal kit box, that's a great way to get together and cook together. They also suggested that you could perhaps do a 10-minute guided meditation from an app like Calm or Inkscape. So some ideas, again, that are just thinking a little bit differently about that teamwork and bonding that can happen virtually. But again, it doesn't just have to be at the end of the week at 4 p.m. You have drinks. There are some other creative ideas that they have in this article from Fast Company as well. If you have any creative things that you're doing within your business, whether you have a small, medium, or large business, let us know in the comments, and we would love to share with you as well to just get some ideas out there in terms of just generating some creative options for people, again, who are tired of those straight up Zoom calls, because I think the reality is that at this point is many of us. Okay, so another story we wanted to share, this is our third story as far as some of the popular links in the newsletter today, is a story from Engadget. This is an interesting one where they talk about road deaths and how these deaths could be cut in half if more of the safety tech that we have available today were available to everyone. And this is really interesting, I think, something I've been talking about over the past few years, where we see this divide as far as access to technology. And if we look at some of the newer automobiles that exist, we know that there's a lot of safety tech within those cars, and a lot of that technology that isn't necessarily accessible to people who have older automobiles. When you dive into this story, they talk about the reality that there are more than 30,000 people who lost their lives in the US alone in 2018. They expect that number could have been cut to about 16,000 if, in fact, we had standard safety features on every car. So those safety features include things like emergency braking that is automatic, blind spot warning, lane departure warning, and pedestrian detection. So a pretty incredible report to look into if you want to better understand how some of this technology in newer automobiles can in fact save lives. I know we've been obsessed over the years on autonomous vehicles and driverless cars, thinking that that is the answer for saving lives, but I think what we see throughout this report from Consumer Reports is the ability to in fact save lives simply by having standardized some of these technology features that we do see in some of the newer cars that exist out there. So let's move on to another story that is near and dear to my heart. Being from Prince Edward Island, I'm always impressed with what this tiny little province on the east coast of Canada is doing. A lot of brave leadership that takes place there. And in fact, we were there around this time last year, and what was really incredible to see is that they introduced a single-use plastic bag ban. So the idea was that you could no longer get plastic bags when you got groceries or other items. And as soon as they introduced this, it was remarkable to walk around Charlottetown where we were and to see that everybody was really adhering to these new rules and regulation, bringing their own bags when they would go shopping. Now, if we look at the introduction of this ban 1 year later, what we've seen is that they've been able to keep millions and millions of bags from entering the waste management system. In fact, in year 1 of the plastic bag ban, they have said that they have been able to reduce the number of plastic bags by 15 to 16 million plastic bags. Again, this is in Canada's smallest province, and we can see the impact that that is going to have. So way to go, Prince Edward Island, for introducing that ban. I hope we see that in more places all across the country and around the world. And I think it's a great example of how a small province like PEI can introduce new rules and regulations and guidelines to better protect our planet. And we can have a great example of how this can work. So some comments coming in from people on Facebook I can see right now. Cal says, well done at PEI, we should all do this. Sophie says the same thing. Bree Young says, way to go PEI. Let us know what you think of this, and if you live in a place where they've done or introduced any other sort of plastic bans or any other sort of rules to abide by that can further help the planet, please do let us know in the comments. Okay, so let's move on to another story. There's been a Chrome extension that has been out for a while now, and this is one that will allow you to watch Netflix with friends and family. Now, this isn't brand new, but it's relatively new in terms of allowing you to do this so you can essentially stream your favorite shows or movies with friends and family. It's really easy to install this extension. So this is a little program that you can install if you're running Google Chrome as your browser. So you simply visit netflixparty.com in your Google Chrome browser. You click Get Netflix Party for free. You'll then be redirected, and all the details are here on screen as far as how you're able to get that extension. And not only can you stream shows together, but there's also a side chat bar where you and your friends can discuss what's going on in the movie, much as like you would do if you were sitting together on the couch, which of course we can't do right now. One of the reasons that I wanted to include this in the newsletter today is that I was thinking about my late grandmother, who I called Grammy, and how she loved old movies, and how it would be so wonderful right now to be able to, at a distance, watch a movie with her and chat with her along the way. So there's a lot of really new and innovative technology that I think allows us to be together with the people that we love while still being apart, and this is a great example of that. So again, it's called Netflix Party, and it will allow you to stream your favorite shows, whether it's a movie or TV show, along with your friends and family. So there have been some bumps along the way with this extension. I know some people said it didn't work that well for them and maybe wasn't available in certain countries, but hopefully we'll see this available in more places soon, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it this summer. Okay, so speaking of getting together and seeing the people who you love the most, even though we all have to be at a distance right now, there is a story that's come out of Brazil, and I know this has been popular in some other countries as well, where what they have introduced is something called a cuddle curtain. Now, the idea is pretty simple, as you can see here. So essentially, it is a plastic curtain, much like a shower curtain, that has arms built into it, that would potentially allow you to visit someone who was in a long-term care facility and safely hug them through the curtain. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably looking at this photo and thinking, this seems ridiculous. But I will say, as someone who hasn't seen their parents or other family members for many months now, I love this idea. What's really cool here, if we look at this quote, one elderly resident was reported to have told the news agency that the curtain was, quote, the most beautiful invention she had ever seen, and that she cried the first time she was able to hug her daughter again. So it might seem ridiculous when you first look at it, but for those of you who have been separated from family members and have family members in long-term care facilities, and I think this is something that, again, is all about that creative thinking that I talked about off the top of this live, where it's necessary right now for us all to be brave in our thinking, be creative in our thinking, come up with new ideas that may seem ridiculous, but actually will make a difference. And I think we need to come up with these ideas in a fairly fast fashion, because we know at the end of the day that we need some solutions for many of the problems that exist in our world right now. And I love to see stories like this from all around the world. And there are plenty of examples of people who are coming up with interesting and innovative ideas. Kumar says the COVID-19 pandemic has really given birth to some innovative inventions that would never have been thought of. Kumar, you are exactly right. We're seeing more and more of this. And every week in my newsletter, we try to bring you some of these stories. And more we're trying to give you a global perspective of what's happening all around the world, so that we can be inspired by other ideas, and not just be inspired to be more creative, but I think most importantly, again, we can really use evidence and data of what we've seen in other places of how it's worked, and bring that home here in Canada or wherever you may live to do things differently and to survive this really difficult time. If you liked what you just saw during this live broadcast, I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is go to ambermac.com/newsletter, and you can sign up there. It's free. There are no strings attached, and really it is about simplifying your life. There's a term that I've been using recently in terms of describing what the newsletter is and what content we're trying to push out there into the world, and that term is Technology Plus. So we aren't just about technology here at AmberMac Media, but we're about Technology Plus, the idea that technology is affecting all of us in all areas of our lives. And what we do with this newsletter is try to make your life easier every single week, at home or at work, or right now, those things might be the same place. So you can check it out at ambermac.com/newsletter and sign up for free, and you'll get the newsletter every single Tuesday all year long. I see lots of comments and questions coming in. I just want to recap and say hello to people who have joined us, and thanks for being here. James Scott Goldie has some nice comments in there. He says hello, thank you to James. Keith Shannon says, thanks Amber, great information. And Sophie is asking if we can do an Instagram Live. We'll see, we might do an Instagram Live, but the setup that we have is not Instagram Live friendly. I think that's fair to say. But nonetheless, you can see this across LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So hopefully that's enough for you right now, Sophie. And we do appreciate your comments every week because we know that you love the live broadcasts. All right, so thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. I'm going to drop the links into a thread across the platform so you can check out all of the 6 stories that I mentioned today. If you sign up for the newsletter, thank you so much. If you already subscribed, thank you as well. Most importantly, stay safe, be kind to your neighbors, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.